Alright, brat. I'm not gonna spend my time playing catch-up with you because you didn't want to take the initiative to learn the material. There's a first and a second part. This is obvious. It says I through Z. I is not the first letter of the alphabet. It's the 16th. It's right after G. Everyone knows this. Lout. Anyway, we're far enough down the alphabet at this point that it's basically just regular alphabetical order, except minus a few of the letters. I is the next letter after G. I is notable for having a dot and for being stupid. First of all, uppercase I often looks exactly the same as lowercase l, which is absolutely ridiculous and unforgivable, but the dot makes everything even more confusing. First of all, I and J are the only letters in the alphabet that aren't a single continuous shape, which means if you want to make a neon sign or any kind of physical object shaped like letters, you have to deal with that. With J, you can at least remove the dot and it's still recognizable as a J. If you do that with I, it's just a line. Plus, with the fact that I and J are the only letters with dots in their basic forms, if you want to add any diacritics like an accent or anything like that, it just causes even more problems. Plus, if you're writing in cursive, you have to go back after you're done writing the whole sentence to add dots. It's a whole can of worms that could be avoided if there just wasn't a dot. I get an A, but I gets an F. 5.01 out of 10, but it might also be 5.0i, as in the square root of negative 5.0. It's certainly hard to tell, isn't it? Next up, J. J has a dot too, F, 5.3 out of 10. K is after that. K does not have a dot. It has a good shape. The capital and lowercase forms are perfect, I think. The capital enlarges everything except the stock. I like how it is similar to P, D, B, Q, H, etc., but the crossed lines instead of a circle make it have its own distinct style. It's always pronounced K when it is pronounced at all, but there's plenty of words like no and night where it just isn't, and that's very sad. I might cry. K is okay. It gets a 9.2 out of 10, A-. Moving through alphabetical order, the next one is O. Now what's neat about O is that it's pronounced O. It's a very consistent letter. It's sometimes pronounced oo for no reason, and sometimes for no reason, and occasionally other things for no reason, but besides that, it's always O, which isn't very consistent at all, but for a vowel, it is. And now for shape, on the other hand, it's just a circle. Making it this simple certainly does make it easier to write, but the issue with this is that the number 0 is also just a circle, and also circles are just circles. It can be confusing. Type O, blood, is an example of this, and also the fact that people say O to mean 0 all the time. So following in that tradition, I'm giving it an O out of 10. Which is a 0. It probably deserves more than a 0, but hey, I'm not the one who named it that. My hands are tied on this one. It's just poetic justice, really. Anyway, I like P. It is an outstanding letter. Great shape, lines up with all these other letters, and it has a very subtle capital lowercase distinction. The lowercase is the same as the uppercase, except it's not keeping its arms and legs inside the vehicle anymore. For the most part, it's pronounced consistently too, so I'm giving it an A, 9.3 out of 10. Next up, the letter T makes me want to abuse. There was a fine pattern set with P, with D, B, Q, G, K, every other sound of this type. And then T is just here ruining all of it, looking nothing like any of them at all. It's hard to write as well. In cursive, you're supposed to go back and cross your T's after you're done writing everything else, which is just unnecessary. I don't like it. F, 3.346232988. 9 out of 10. Okay, so the next letter is going to be U. Since U is a vowel letter, it has a wide range of different sounds that it decides to take sometimes, as usual, but out of all the vowel letters, this one I think is one of the worst. Not even out of sheer number of sounds it makes, but by how completely unrelated they all are. It is ridiculous to me that and U are typically represented by the same letter. Now it is easy enough to write, but if you write it too fast or forget that little sideburn on the right, then it looks like a V. More importantly though, U is notable for being pronounced exactly the same as U. The effect U have had in regards to cultural impact isn't as significant as U, but most people dislike U, whereas U is generally considered neutral. Anyway, I give U an F, and U a C. 5 point an infinite number of 9s out of 10. V, of course, has the same problem of being confusable with U, but it looks cool. Ever seen V for Vendetta? V was a character in that movie, and he wore a funny mask and talked in riddles or something, I think. Just like Dream. I don't really remember the movie. Anyway, I'm giving V a V-, but in Spanish. For a number, it gets an 8.00000001 out of 10. So we're skipping W and triple U and moving straight to Y, which is pretty self-descriptive. Y. Why does this letter exist? Most of the time you could replace it with an I. It's not rare enough to be cool, and it looks like an intergluteal cleft. Half the time I can't even write it without it looking like a gamma or something. Y is usually touted as that letter that's sometimes a consonant and sometimes a vowel, and I don't really know why Y is singled out. If it's about the sound itself, then W is in the same position. If it's about what literal letters can act as the vowel of a syllable, then R and L and M and N are all like that too. Plus, Pokemon X was better, F, 2.1 out of 10. Anyway, last but not least, the last letter of the alphabet is the letter of the alphabet which is last. I am not going to say the name of it because British people will get mad at me. Izzard. For being one of the weird, cool letters, it's surprising to see how consistent this letter actually is. It actually has a use. The letter S fills in where it should be some of the time, but it never really does the same back to S. And besides a few one-off cases like pizza, it's not really pronounced like anything else either. It's probably my third favorite axis, and it's a cool looking letter too. Just like S, except even more goth, with those sharp edges. Whoa! Fresh. Can it do a kickflip? Last letter of the alphabet is an A, but only if it does a kickflip. 9.280856 out of 10. Anyway, that's all of them. My recommendation is that this now becomes the new alphabetical order. We can just get rid of any documents that go from A to Z. The new order is B to R. So just remember B to R. Somebody's gonna have to make a new alphabet song. That won't be too hard. You could probably use the old tune for that. It won't be too hard to memorize. Don't worry about that part. Anyway, make sure to tune in next time for the next Everything review, in which I will review the Holocaust. Is it good or bad? Hopefully bad.